Hello, everyone. Welcome to C-Suite Talks, a podcast that takes you inside some of the most interesting businesses and industries today. It explores career success and how we can make a difference. We invite you to join us on this journey, and welcome to C-Suite Talks. I'm Beth Hilbing, co-CEO of C-Suite.
And I'm Dianne Gubin, co-CEO of C-Suite with Beth. And today we are just so happy to be speaking with Dr. Bonnie Wims. Bonnie is a counseling psychologist, and boy, do we have questions for you. So let me just start with, what are some of the issues you're seeing in working women today? What are the issues, the causes, the solutions? I want to dig into working women in psychology.
Well, in thinking about that question, what pops in my head is the more things change, the more they stay the same, I think in a lot of ways, there's some of the issues women have always been challenged by. There's, a lot of things that women have to deal with when they go into the working world that I think more and more men are challenged by too. But there's still this sort of sense of women that they have to deal with really unique challenges. But the thing that I like to hone in on when I work with women is the idea of competition. And that might sound a little weird to you, but the reason I bring it up is that we've been taught through the years to think of it sort of like a pie, and there's a finite number of pieces, right? So if you're aspiring for a position and you're really trying for that position, you're really thinking that there's only one woman that can get to that position. So competition among women can get really brutal and fierce because our sense is that I've got to tear you down so that I can move up. There's throughout the years, that's been a real huge problem for us because it really has been true. There haven't been very many women to reach certain heights. And so as you push, you've kind of got to step on all the other fingers and toes and heads so that you can get to that vaulted position that only, a precious few can get to. And it's really a problem for a lot of reasons, not only in the competitive spirit, obviously, but when we compete with each other, then we don't have a peer group, we don't have support. We don't have people that we can talk to and understand what we're going through, and really just try to, understand the process of what's happening. And also there's less ability to talk about the challenges, talk about money, talk about the challenge of promotion, talk about work-life balance. And so I think women then try to wall off their feelings. They don't want to appear vulnerable. They don't want it to feel like they're somehow not achieving what maybe a man would be achieving. And at the end of the day, it just leaves us more isolated. So I feel like competition among women, although it is changing with more and more options opening up, more fields opening up, more positions opening up, women fighting to get to these positions, I feel like the competitive tearing each other down is starting to change because we can all realize that there isn't a pie. It's actually infinite. We just have to fight to create those positions.
Yeah, I think too there was a lot of ageism too with women.
Oh yeah.
Because I know when I was younger in my career, you would never ask a woman their age, and if you did, they would bite your head off and all that stuff. And I think that's kind of calmed down too as that generation has passed and progressed.
You mean because you have to give your age for everything now, and sometimes you have to say it over the phone, and you're like,
yes.
Don't listen, right?
But no, I agree that was very well said and well put, Bonnie.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank
so
you. Yeah.
As we going to dive into a bunch of different questions, but I am interested in your background.
Actually, I want to know the issue that you just talked about before we get into Bonnie's background. The issue that you just talked about with it becoming, steeper and more competitive the higher you get. Do you think part of that too is, and losing our support network, and again, that's why C-Suite even exists, is that we can be that support network. But the higher you get within an organization, the less likely you are to go have lunch with your subordinates.
Sure. It's true for men and women, right?
Right.
They often talk about the high levels of being a very lonely sort of place to be. But the difference, I think, is that men can often create their peer groups quite easily with other,
golf
levels of golf or there's just more of them. There's just simply more of them. And so I think you'll find that as there's more women, there would be more opportunity for that. But
Mm.
yeah, it is a huge challenge, I think, because what do our peers do for us? Like C-suite, what does that do for us? Well, it gives us a sense of a community, and it
Yes.
gives us a sense that, oh, this is happening, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing, and I can understand what's happening because it happened to you too. That the peer groups are so vital, and men have always had that. They've always had that.
Right. No, exactly. Exactly. And I think we've all experienced that too over the years. And that's why the networking groups are so important because you are in more of a safer zone, right, with your peers
Right.
to talk and so
Yeah,
Right.
forth.
It,
yeah.
So, what
it,
do you think? I mean, Diane and I had an experience with this a couple of years ago when the Me Too movement started and all the women were coming out against the men that had abused them or et cetera, or alleged. And do you see that impacting too? Because what I've seen is a lot of people withdrawing from doing social activities with their staff and with their peers at work.
Yeah, yeah. I think the whole "I've been me too'd," which is I've some phrase I've heard. Um, it's a lack of understanding,
mhm.
obviously, because the Me Too movement came out of a real problem, and it needed to be addressed and it needed to be spoken of. But also, just like anything where we've been holding on to something or been quiet about something, when it comes out, the pendulum swings way over here. And now all of a sudden, we can all probably name people that got caught up in that maybe shouldn't have, that really it wasn't necessarily, um, it was a bit of a overreaction to something. So I do think some people are very, if they're not taking the time to try to understand what that was about, because to me it's very clear what it's about, and it's not maybe an inappropriate joke, or it's not that women don't know how to laugh, or it's not that women aren't able to maybe even enjoy a kind of a body joke at times. I've been around plenty of women where we're all joking about different things. It's possible. I think it's a lack of understanding what it was really about, and what it was
Mhm.
really about was women who were in positions of being a subordinate over a male who had power over them,
Right.
and using that in a way through either sexual intimidation or other ways to try to keep them, down. And so it's it's not the funny little joke, it's not that you can't socialize or laugh with women. It's not that at all, because I've talked with the two of you and you have a great sense of humor. So it's, you know what I mean? I think it's really a lack of understanding.
Oh, that's good. That's
Right.
good.
Right. Oh my
Okay,
gosh, we
well,
could go
so
on forever.
now,
So
now kind of tell us about yourself.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Now we want to know
just
about
a
your
little bit, and then
background.
we'll
Yeah.
dive into juicier questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And like Bonnie, let's talk about why'd you become a psychologist? Why this career path?
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to be a psychologist. I mean, the age always changes when I think about it, because I can't remember exactly, but always. I grew up in an alcoholic abusive home. My father was not a well man. And so as a child, um, I think a child has a choice at that point to try to decide what they're going to do with that sort of upbringing. Personally, it made me curious. I wanted to understand, how is it that somebody, what has happened to somebody to make them behave that way in such a counterintuitive way to what a loving father is supposed to be behaving like. So I was always curious. I started taking psychology classes in high school. And then, just like life happens, I ended up going into work into a completely different field, had family, couldn't get back because it's a lot of school to become a psychologist.
Yes.
But I was finally able to do it, and it's, to me, I still feel it today. I'm always curious as to what are people thinking about when they behave the way they behave. What is it that's happened to you that has challenged you in such a way that you end up then behaving in a certain way that's maybe abusive or violent, or even with working with women, where women don't make good choices for themselves, whether it's personally or professionally, because of some trauma that they've gone through. So I'm fascinated by that, and I do. My goal is, in working with people, is to help them realize that through that lens of looking at your trauma, you can actually make huge choices to change. It's not inevitable that you're going to end up one certain way. Every day we have choices, a million choices. And so helping people identify that, and that they can step away from, maybe a low self-esteem or a real desperate need to feel that they're not worthy or they're not valued. To really step away from that and check in with who they really are, kind of move that what's happened to them, but to the side, and just get a clear picture of their own real value. It's the most rewarding thing. I would do it till the day I drop, as long as I still have a memory and I can still speak. I love what I do. I love it.
I love it. I love it. And a
Yeah.
typical client you work with, it sounds like, is female, career. What's
Yeah.
a typical client for you?
I mean, I think in marketing, right, we kind of attract who we are without trying, and then it's a matter of trying harder to attract others. So I do attract myself. I attract a lot of women, probably 40 plus, who just have huge success in their life, but just an area that hasn't quite worked out, and they're kind of trapped in trying to figure it out. I always tell people, if you could have figured this out with your brain, because they're brilliant, you would have by now, because you're a smart person. It's not your brain that's the problem. It's this real deep rooted emotional belief about yourself that we need to challenge and understand. So yeah, I work with a lot of women who just find themselves sort of trucking along, doing quite well, but there's just this area they've never really been able to resolve. Sometimes it's relationships, wanting a significant other. Sometimes it's relationship with family. Sometimes it's relationship with themselves, feeling that they've done what they want to do in their life. But I don't just work with women, but I do have a tendency to attract women. So that's fine by me. I love women.
That's great. That's great. And you're bicontinental, right? Because you moved to London, so you've got a whole thing going over in London too.
Yeah, no, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
So, Bonnie, why don't you get right to the root, like women in money? What are you seeing? Conversations, concerns? How is that playing out?
Yeah, and we're talking about that because the economy is so stuff.
It's a funny thing. Everybody has trouble talking about money. Like no one really loves it. Maybe Bill Gates, I don't know. But most people don't like talking about money. And the real reason is because of the meaning we attach to the money. It's not the money, it's what do we feel about the money, right? So I think for women in money, I think it's quite a charged conversation. We have certain beliefs about money and the way in which we feel about it. And for women, I think it is a bit of our parents. How did they talk about money? Was one of our parents a worrier, or was money used to express love and affection? Was it used as a weapon in a divorce? Was it deprived of as a punishment? It's all of this experience of what money has been sort of used in our childhood and on our lives. And also, did you grow up wealthy or not? Were your needs met? Were you always needing something? Was it linked to shame and guilt because there was a lot or not enough? So our experience with money growing up, and that's not exclusive to women, that's across the board. But I think for women, then there's this societal expectation that comes in. Not exclusively, I don't want to generalize, but men do have a tendency to be more competitive and aggressive with money, investing in money, much more confident in it. Some of that's just because they've had years and years of experience, more years of experience, but also they're more competitive in that way. Men have in the past tended to take science, math, some of those other types of subjects that women weren't taking, which is changing, thank goodness. So women can kind of turn the lack of money or the unsuccessful situation with money as something on themselves. They blame themselves. There's a lot of statistics that show if the market goes down, men will blame, their broker or the market. Women will blame their choices. Somehow they didn't choose correctly.
Okay.
Somehow we didn't tell our broker enough what we were looking for, right?
Right. Yeah. And there's a tendency for that, which we really have to watch for as women. And I think we have an insecurity around money a lot of the times because we live longer. We need it more. We have a tendency to move in and out of our career. If we've had children, we've taken time off. So sometimes people express a real sense of being behind. I feel like I got to catch up because I took that time off. Is there enough money? Is there enough time to get that money? And we have fear. We have a lot of fear because we don't have a lot of role models to look to, more and more now. But, there was a time, I think we're all around the same age. Certainly when I was younger, who was it that was a woman talking about money that you saw on the news or, in newspapers? There were none.
And your
So I think,
friends didn't either.
Yeah, it was all about shopping.
right?
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
there
they
was
didn't know
no,
Right.
about your 401k and all that stuff.
Yeah.
no. They say that in the coordinated research, women do tend to equate money with love and emotion, and that we give more away. We save more for retirement, and we're more into charities and philanthropy and that sort of thing, which is all great. But women in high positions that begin to earn a lot more money, there's no blueprint. There's no role models out there. There are more now, but there aren't enough, and there certainly haven't been enough in the past. So there's not a generational sense. Like my mother wasn't in the stock market, my grandmother, it's like I look back on that and I have no experience of that. My mother was sitting at the table clipping coupons and going to 3 different grocery stores. She was very concerned about money, but it was in a different way, and it certainly
Right.
didn't trickle down to a sense of confidence for me, with money. So I really think in the societal expectations, I think that's where women really struggle with money, and we got to kind of break that mold. And I think the more and more women that are, in high positions, the more C-suites that exist, the more opportunities we have to join calls and talk about investing and the more we can break out of that mold.
Well, it's very
There,
good.
there is a shift in that direction. So let's talk about therapy, okay?
Sure.
So, what kind of specific therapy do you provide, and then what do people think? Like, what's the misconception about therapy? Like, what is it that you do? Is there a name or a type?
Yeah, I'm kind of eclectic, which makes it hard for me to explain it. But in simplest terms, I think the term in the U.S. is person-centered. And what that just means is you and I are meeting as people. I'm not some expert that sits up here on some, hierarchy throne, and I'm going to dictate to you what you need to do. These are two people meeting and really trying to hash through whatever it is that you're challenged with. And that leads into the biggest misconception is that I give advice. I don't give advice. I never give advice. Because if I told you what to do, I would just join the chorus of voices that are already in your head. Because your mother tells you what to do, your husband, your sister, your brother, your friends, your coworkers, everybody tells us
My
each other
dog.
what to do.
My dog. It's time to go to bed.
This is what you need to do. So therapy is about helping you begin to understand and gain that powerful sense in yourself that you know what to do. And you do know what to do. It just gets covered up with a lot of, yucky voices sometimes from either our own experiences or the people in our lives. So yeah, and that I give advice is probably the biggest misconception.
Wow. And virtual? Can you do virtual? Is it the same as in person?
I think so. People will challenge that. Less now since COVID, since we got forced into it. Prior to COVID, I definitely heard from professionals that they felt, other therapists, that they would question that it could work. I think there are unique ways that you work with it, but it's the same as you guys. If I'm talking to you on a Zoom call, I'm trying to look at that green dot so that I'm looking you in the eye. Like there are things that you learn that you have to use within the modality to make sure that people feel that you are present with them and that there's nothing else happening in your world and that you are very focused on this session. That's all you need to do. And however you do that, it works.
Are there breakthrough? I mean, has there been changes in the last 10, 15 years in therapy and how therapy is given to an individual? Is there any new techniques or is it basically still the same?
What I think is changing is, and this is a good thing, and I think this might be jumping ahead to a question, but the idea that therapy is for the really ill and that it's more, I like to say mental wellness, because I think we're switching the way we work with people, and the fact that, I would like people to think of therapy as something like, getting your teeth cleaned, although more pleasant than that.
Exactly.
And hopefully more often.
And more often, yeah. But oh God, what's the word? Where you're, preventative. Thank you. God, it's been a long day. So preventative work. So it's not about, oh, let's wait until we're just absolutely devastated and I can't go to work and I just can't get out of bed. Let's challenge you up front and really work through some issues that are bothering you now so that we can, just make you feel the best you can feel. Like, why not? So I think there's a movement away from thinking that somehow therapy is just for the really ill.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's true. What I feel is that companies, we all have our plans with our companies, and you're allowed so many sessions and so forth. And I know I had a relative that took advantage of that, but they only paid for 2 sessions, and she needed a lot more than that, and she couldn't afford it. And we were so hopeful because she at least went to the 2, but then, ugh, so then
That
she
is the
stopped.
most heart-wrenching thing that I hear about time and time again, is that the benefits are woefully, woefully too small. 2 sessions. First
Is
session's
nothing.
introductions and just trying to figure out what it is you're there for. And the second session you're ending. Like, where's the work? Like, it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So as
Yeah.
we wrap up for today, what I am interested in is, companies are giving employees mental health days off, and there are many public service announcements highlighting the benefits of therapy. What more do you think can be done?
Good question.
We don't have enough time. There is so much more to be done. I love that people are talking about it more. I love that there are, companies giving mental health days off. I love that there are people talking about it in the press, athletes, celebrities. I love all of that. Talk, talk, talk. Please talk more. But as we were just saying, if there's not money where your mouth is, if there's no support behind that, so someone hears all of this and they think, you know what, I really am suffering from anxiety. And Naomi Osaka, the tennis player, talked about it, and that makes me think I should get some help. And they go to their employer and they get the 2 sessions. What happens next? So the benefits are terrible. The insurance reimbursement is terrible. The access is terrible. It's really, there just isn't enough, and we're not investing in it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I don't see
Frankly,
any changes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not
no.
at all.
I had a friend who got a day off, last month for Mental Health Awareness Month, and he was excited.
Can I have an hour? Forget a day. I'll take an hour.
But I was cheesing with him because I said, "Can I have the name of your HR person, because I want to explain to them what this day off, how small and insignificant." And he's like, "No, because they'll take away my day off." But it's the idea is that we need to give people an opportunity to get treatment,
Right.
and
Right.
that's where they just don't. It's money. It just comes down to money. It's always about money. So I'm very frustrated, like you just told, of somebody that finally takes that step, because it takes a lot sometimes for somebody to admit they really want and need help. It takes a lot.
Right. And
And
carve out the
then
time. I mean,
carve out
it's
the
a big
time.
time
Yep.
commitment.
Yeah. And commit to the idea that they're finally going to make a change. And then they get told, they can't, they get their
Time's
2
up.
sessions or time's up. Yeah.
Yeah,
And they don't
exactly.
feel better. They know, and the underlying message there is that you're not valued. Your illness is not valued. You break your leg and go to the doctor, you're going to get treated until your leg is well. It just isn't thought of in the same vein at all. And I hear people, whispering that, oh, are they really sick? Or, oh, she says she's depressed, that sort of thing, where it's not thought of on par with other illnesses. And it just couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, no. Well, we really appreciate having you here today. And so, Dr. Bonnie Wims, where can our listeners find you if they want to find you?
Everywhere.
Ooh, wow, we're there.
My website, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. I really want to throw open the doors of this stigma and hidden secret about what therapy is. And I'm just trying to be accessible, even if it's just to have a conversation like this, because I'm really just one conversation at a time, trying to tear down that whole idea that it's only meant for other people and those really sick people out there, and that we could all really benefit from, sometimes just having a conversation with another human being in a real way, so that we can iron a few things out. So Yeah, I think I said it right. Facebook,
Yep.
LinkedIn, all the socials. Bonnie Wims, 1M.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well,
Thank you,
thank you
Bonnie.
for listening today, everyone. And we want to thank our sponsors, Google, RSM, an accounting firm, Manette, a law firm, Woodward Sawyer, employee benefits, Amplify Professional Services, executive search and IT consulting. We want to thank you again for listening, and hit the subscribe button on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you find your podcasts. Leave us a review. Excellent, of course. And then follow us on social media: LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. And we love hearing from you. So send us an email at media@csuite.org. That's CSWEET.org. And check out our website and come to our events and be active. www.csuite.org. And thank you for today.
Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Beth.
Thank you,
Thank
Bonnie.
you.